Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ultimate edition of the Village Slow SEQFC preview show. My name's Darren, and tonight we're going to focus on the NPL Grand Final. And we've got one of the coaches with us tonight. His name is Darren Sime. G'day, Darren.
Good evening, everyone.
Great to have you with us. And so we're focusing on Lions tonight because Wednesday night is Darren's night. Tomorrow night we're going to have Ben Kahn on the show. Just works best with training and all that sort of thing. Well, we'd love to get them together so they could, have a verbal stoush, but not to worry. All right, Darren. I should also add that we've got Tony Jorkis with us and Scott Harding, president at Springfield United. G'day, guys. But Darren, we've only got you for a short time, so let's get into it. You did it again. You beat Penny Power in the semi-final to make another grand final. What a great achievement that is. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's we're very, very proud of the record for sure. I think it was a good game. It was an exciting game. I think both teams were willing, and it really was going to only take one chance to be the difference. So I'm glad that Ethan got up in the 92nd minute to do that. He's one of those players that just pops up all over the pitch and certainly influences games. So I'm glad he influenced it positively at the end there.
I'm sure you had to be thinking extra time, right? Or did you think in the back of your mind that there was still going to be one more chance?
Yeah, listen, you never give up hope, absolutely. But yeah, we were preparing for extra time for sure. So when we drove in there and found that extra player, I thought, oh, here we go, we're on here. And that's all it takes. All it takes is just one player to make a good decision that can influence a game. Hopefully we see the same this weekend.
What did you think of the game? When I was there Friday night, it was hot. It was muggy. It had rained earlier in the night, which meant that the Power had really low crowd. So the atmosphere just wasn't quite there. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But what was your take on the evening?
Yeah, it was a little subdued, I think. They've obviously had a really big season, very successful season. I'm not saying there was a sense of inevitability about it, but because I know that they were a really strong team and they wanted to win. They wanted to go on and make a final and finish off the season strongly. So they were, obviously a little bit upset about the result. But in regards to the night itself, for us, it was perfect conditions. It's a fantastic pitch up there. We really enjoy playing. It suits our playing style, as I said before. So yeah, we enjoyed the conditions. It was a lot cooler than it was when we played the Raw on the Sunday previously. So, we were relishing those conditions. Yeah,
for sure. And another trip to Stade de Paris for the grand final, which is this Saturday at 7:30, and you're taking on Olympic again. So it's a complete repeat of last year's two fixtures in the finals for you.
Yes, familiar foes. I think, we certainly know each other's game inside and out. Listen, I think it's going to be a really good spectacle. It was a fantastic experience last year for everyone. We've got obviously a slightly different team this year. I think we've 7 or 8 players where it's first time final experience. So, they're really, really excited. They just want to go out and impress and represent the club and their family as well. So, no, we're really looking forward to it.
Having that many players, new to this experience, but the experienced heads that you're there, you must have that combination of experience and excitement in training this week.
Yeah, I think the older heads have been fantastic this week. It's a slow build. It's obviously trying to, rein back some of the enthusiasm in the younger boys. But the older boys, they've been here before. They know what they need to do. So it's been a good week, actually, nice and relaxed and building nicely. So we'll have our final session tomorrow. We'll go through a couple of things and then we'll be prepared.
And so you say that you relax. So do you treat it as just another game, or do you give it the do you put it on the pedestal where
gravitas.
it deserves to be?
Yeah, it's finding that balance, isn't it? We certainly want to go out and enjoy, and I'm going to encourage the boys to go out and enjoy the experience, just like they did when they played against the Raw a couple of weeks ago. You have to, these games don't come around too often, so you've just got to make sure that you breathe and look around and take it all in, and use whatever you need to use to get yourself motivated, for sure. But obviously trying to control those arousal levels as well. And it will be the team that just settles into their groove as quickly as possible. Will go on and cause a little bit of damage. So I know both teams are going to back themselves in. We certainly do. I know they will. But we'll have a game plan, and as soon as we settle in and get to that game plan, the more pressure we can put on them.
All right. And one more question before I throw it open to Tony and Scott. The fact that we are in November now, does it have any impact at all on your style of play? Just temperature-wise?
No, not necessarily, I don't think. I think both teams, not renowned this season in particular for our pressing. So, I don't think that's going to come into too much play. It's actually, I'm standing out here in a jumper anyway, so it's not it's not the typical November weather that we're used to. So,
and you're at a school recital tonight, right?
Yes, I'm living the high life, absolutely. So,
and of course, a teacher at that school, yeah.
No, this is my daughter's actually. This is her final recital. So she's in there. She's done her thing. So I've managed to escape and speak to you guys.
Right, and that's the reason why Scott Harding isn't there. For those of you out there that don't know, Scott and Darren actually teach in classrooms next to each other. So Scott particularly wanted to be on the show tonight. So Scott, I'll throw it open to you now, mate. The floor is yours.
Well, it's funny you should talk about arousal levels, because I'm looking at his hair at the moment, and it's been a subject of discussion in the staff room. But no, I've actually got a tactical question for him. Do you feel that pressing is a slightly overrated tactic? Do you think that it's better to just control possession, particularly in a game like the grand final where Olympic are going to come out, they're going to come out hard at you? Are you better drawing them onto you, do you think, without giving too much away?
Yeah, it's finding that balance, I think, Scott. There's certainly going to be moments within the game where I think we need to go and press and put them under pressure. However, when we played them over there a few weeks ago, we got hurt actually on people coming out trying to press individually, and to an extent, I think that's what Olympic want. They want us to come out and press so that they can play around us, because they've got those quality players. They overload certain areas of the pitch and they work through that press and work around that press. So, it's certainly picking your moments to do it. Again, consistently, I think that could be quite dangerous if you're going to consistently press for long periods of time against Olympic. So, I think trying to isolate certain players in that press is an option, but overall, if it's not working against a team like Olympic, then you don't do it. Yeah.
Would you say you're going to remain fairly tactically flexible? You have to, I guess. You know what I mean? You have to play what's in front of you.
Yeah, there is an element of that, but there's also remaining true to what got you there. I think we had that change midway through the year that was pretty fruitful for us. So I think, and certainly as a player, I always, like to coach who backed us in, and had faith in what got us there. So I'm not going to be making wholesale changes just to try and combat Olympic. I think we'll certainly acknowledge their strengths and work to minimise those, but we're going to rely on what got us there as well.
Do you feel you have a slight advantage after last year's final? Or do you think it doesn't count for too much?
No, I don't think it counts for too much, to be honest with you. Obviously, I think they're keen to. What is it? 4 in a row they've been in the final now. Yeah.
I think
so
the number is.
So I they're obviously very keen to add to. Tony will tell us how many have they
Four in
won?
a row. Four in a row, haven't won any.
Haven't won any. Okay. What about titles?
I don't think that. And I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to cop it again. I don't think they have won a title under Ben Khan. No disrespect to Ben Khan. Yeah. So I'm not. This is not a bagging session on Ben, like some people treated my previous comments. So yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah, but that's certainly not my intent for that question.
No. They haven't won any for 4. Well, I can't remember the last time they won a title. I think it was 2013.
Okay.
When Tim Brown was coaching.
Yeah. So obviously the Cobs, keen to add to that. I would assume so. In regards to last year, in regards to last year being an influence, not necessarily. Every grand final is a different one, and it's normally the better team on the day that will get the win. So
whoever wants it more will win it.
Yeah, there's an element of that for sure. There's teams will find a way. You have to find a way on days like grand finals. So,
for you, from a coaching perspective, obviously, we talk a lot at school, don't we, about bringing players through a system when we're working together at school. And do you think it's the same at club level, that obviously there's a good junior setup, you can bring young players through into your first team, and they know your philosophy before they come in? Do you feel it's integrated well that way?
Yes and no. I think we've been. That's one of the major things that I've been proud of this year. And there's been a lot of hard work by a lot of good people at the club in the junior space, in particular, but also our 18s will be playing the final as well. They won the premiership. Our 23s narrowly missed out on both. Actually, went out on the weekend. So even within our senior setup, that's one of the things that I've been proud of this year. We've brought in coaches that are all connected with the club. They're all ex-players, or they've been involved with the club for a very long time. We've certainly looked after our 16s into our 18s, 18s into 23s. So, it's something that we work really hard at Lions is to reward loyalty and make sure that Lions players and Lions people are looked after and developed, and so in regards to them stepping into the first team, we've certainly got a couple of young prospects that are quite exciting. Are they ready to make the jump yet? Maybe not. Next season could be a little bit different in that way. So we'll wait and see.
Nice, good thing. Thanks for that.
I know that last year, Darren, certainly you may not have felt it yourself, but there was certainly a perception out there that you were sort of riding on the. I know that you're assistant coach, but you're riding on the back of Mooney's the team that Mooney had assembled. This year, does it feel especially like your team, given that you've had cleared out so many players?
Yeah, well, naturally, there's with natural attrition and people moving on, we had to really not start again. I wouldn't say it was a fundamental start again, because we still had 5 or 6 key players that we kept to ensure that the culture continued and the legacy of what Lions is all about continues. So, yeah, listen, I've been really, really proud of the squad. I've backed the squad in from the start, even when we had a bit of a quiet period. I still had faith that the players that we brought in were going to be quality and contribute and create their own sort of legacy. And we're starting to see it now. So, to an extent, I'm really proud of the boys. They've learned from this year. I think next year they're going to be even better for it. So, the signs are really positive for the next few years if we keep these boys together.
Was that something that entered your headspace at all?
What's that?
Just the fact that you wanted to put your stamp on the team, that this was your side.
Well, yes and no. I suppose it's not something that I consciously sat down and said, all right, this is all about me now. Let's just make it about me now. I don't think that's certainly, and Mr. Harding will attest to that's not my characteristics. So I think my sole role was to ensure success for the club.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I'm very grateful that I was given the opportunity to do that. So I've been working extremely hard to make sure that and let's and Mooney won't mind me saying this, the club was very, very successful prior. I think you go back, I think we've won 23 titles or premierships in the last 40 years or so, certainly so this isn't a club that, isn't known for not being successful. So the pressure for me was to maintain that level of success. So it certainly wasn't about me. It was about making sure that I do the past coaches and the past players and people involved with the club, to do them proud. That's primarily my focus.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. We've got Lliam here as well, who's joined us during the evening. G'day, Lliam.
Hello, how are you?
Do you have a question for Mr. Sime?
Yeah, just mid-season. You were mid-table in the mid-season. I noticed you had Joe Duckworth, I think, was playing a bit out of position there as well. What changes did you make to try and get the boys back firing again? Was it a couple more signings there, or what?
No, not necessarily. I think if you look back at the games that we were playing, we were never played off the park. It was the draws hurt. I think we lost we drew 3 times in the last minute of the game. So you've been involved in those games before. They feel like a loss, don't they? So there was a little bit of I suppose the challenges in the squad then were to try and motivate them and keep them up. And so, it was a point. We need to make sure that we celebrate every point.
Yeah.
And obviously changing formation slightly, kind of built to our strengths. Ethan Doherty's had a good second half to the season. He's brought some solidity in the back there, and has allowed Tommy. And I know Simo was there, but he's been in there all year as well. But I think just more defensive solidity changed it slightly, and allowed us, the boys up front, to go and express themselves a bit more.
I think with yourselves and Olympic, as you well know, we've been very vocal about their season as well. Both yourself and Olympic, as I stated, were mid-season, mid-table mid-season. So for both of the clubs to come on strong at the back of the season, it's you ought to be commended for the boys to get through that mental toughness and work your way back up to the top again.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's I know that both sides have got winners, and want to better themselves and want to win for their clubs. So when you've got both sets of players like that, I think it makes it easier for sure.
All right, Scott, I might just throw this one back to you, mate. So what's he like as a team?
Actually, fairly like he's described himself, which I'd hate to say otherwise, really. He is quite an understated character. But he's got a calm authority about him in the classroom. The kids respect him. He's well liked. And it's a pleasure to work with him, basically. Obviously, I'm not a Lions fan, but I'm coming in to watch the game as a neutral. But I must admit, he's very, very consistent with his practices, with his values. Everything he said about making it about the team, totally agree. That's Darren all over.
Very kind words, Mr. Harding. Thank you.
I increase next week.
Chocolate.
I'll throw the same question to you, Darren. What's it like working next to Scott?
Certainly, Mr. Harding wears his heart on his sleeve. He's he's one of certainly the most intelligent teacher that I've ever worked with. His understanding about texts and textual features and intertextuality. There you go. I've got it in there, Mr. Harding. He's able to draw themes between two separate texts that the normal human cannot even decipher. So no, it's always good fun.
Wing my lessons. That's what he's saying.
It's always good fun in the staff room with Mr. Harding around for sure.
Are you guys? Is it primary, high school? What
High school.
classes do you teach?
Yeah, secondary.
Secondary, yeah.
Okay, so are you both English teachers?
Yeah, we
Yes.
both are. I'm actually English apprentice trained, and Darren, you're English and PE, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so a little bit of Shakespeare in there as well?
Little bit. Small bit.
Good stuff. All right, Darren, we might let you go. Thank you very much for your time. Best of luck on the weekend.
Thank you very much. Just in time. We've got everyone flooding out now, so
There you go.
perfect timing.
Good luck,
Good
Simon.
stuff. Save the marriage.
Thanks, Tony.
See you tomorrow, Darren.
See you, Scott. Cheers. Thanks.
There you have it. That's Darren Sime, the coach of Lions. And that was a great interview. I really enjoyed his comments there. It just shows, I really loved his comment about when I asked him about it being his team, and he's always comes across as very little ego, if at all. And I just thought his comment was beautiful there, Scott.
That's him. That's what he is. He doesn't ever make it about himself, which is very refreshing because not every coach is like that. So it's nice to see. It's nice to see a guy, particularly in a position that high up the football pyramid, who isn't somebody who's going to sort of play the personalities and then lead up to the grand final. He's just going to go out there and his team will execute or they won't execute. It's that simple.
And it's good to see him too with it's his first full season with Lions as well. So it's good to see him make a name for himself, as you said. Like he's kind of not under that uni shadow like he was probably halfway through last season. But it's certainly it's good that they've managed to get back up into back into a finals without Mooney there. So it's a credit to him to getting the boys up the way they did, especially when they were halfway through the season. And we pretty much had Olympic and Lions. We were all scratching our head, pretty much going, what's going on here? But it's more power to him. He's done very well.
I mean, it's interesting. He talks about winning 23 titles in 40 years, which that was a stat I didn't know about. But think of the intrinsic pressure that comes with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it would be hard to keep that legacy going and always have that in the back of your mind, but also stay grounded at the same time.
Yeah.
And I guess Ben's got the same thing at Olympic. Do you know what I mean? Where they have this legacy they want to leave. He's going to be doubly motivated coming into the final himself after last year. It's going to be interesting to see which coach tactically gets up on the other.
Yes.
Very definitely.
The interesting thing will be, what does Ben do? Does he change things around this week or does he keep it the same? He's gone there the last two. This is his third or fourth. How do you get them up for this next one? They've lost the last two or three. So does he change things or does
would
he
you
stick to
change
the same
things,
thing?
Tony? What would you do? Would you change things or keep them?
No, you know what? I think the addition of Zach Anderson at the back, that was solid as a rock.
Yeah.
And I think he's a big difference, and he seems to have that calming. I wouldn't be changing anything.
I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't.
Because currently, the last 5 or 6 weeks, nothing's broken. Don't fix it.
Yeah, they've come into a good form the last however weeks to get up into the finals, and you wouldn't want to be changing anything.
No.
And just looking at the record this season, that the first round was a 3-3 draw, and the second round Olympic won 1-0. So you'd want to be doing the same things that you're doing this season, right?
There's not much between them.
No, so it should be a fascinating game.
It could very well come down to team discipline. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If anybody gets too emotional about the occasion and doesn't stick to the tactics and lets the crowd get to them, all these little things can make the difference.
Yeah. It's going to be big. I know when I watched the FFA Cup game with Lions, there was a couple of skirmishes there as well. So I think they'd want to try and rope that in a bit.
There's a couple of places at Olympic you can get to with a bit of niggle. Whether they'll try it, I don't know. But yeah. I know Monday fires up easily.
All right. So just a reminder that we'll be talking to Ben Kahn tomorrow night, and we'll get the Olympic side of things. Before we leave tonight, though, there's a few talking points that I want to bring up before we end tonight's show. Firstly, Lliam, got to meet you in person for the first time on Saturday.
In the flesh.
In the flesh at the Football Queensland Awards.
You're a lot taller than what your little pic says there,
buddy.
He's
6'6", he's a monster. He's a monster.
I was sitting at the pub there waiting, and I thought, who's this mountain of a man walking in?
You're no midget yourself, mate. You're no midget yourself.
I know.
But it was a good night, wasn't it?
A brilliant night, yeah, had a really good
Football
night.
Queensland Awards, we of course went to, and
yes,
it was all very functional, all went very smoothly, and it was a good night. And
it was good to finally meet some of the people that we've interviewed throughout with someone like myself who's reasonably new to football in South East Queensland. It was finally good to meet a few people face to face. So
yes, and congratulations to all the awards winners. Now, guys, one of the talking points that I want to bring up tonight is I did mention it before when was last Friday night. I was at Peninsula Power, AJ Kelly, for that first semi-final. Now, on the field, it may have been a really interesting game, but the crowd was small. They were not engaged. There was an old boys game that was being played earlier that night, and I was up with all the drunks, so I was hoping to get the atmosphere, get the full experience. And they were all talking about the old boys game. There was a couple of times there when players did the push and shove thing. Barely a whimper from the crowd. So now this is not a slight against the Peninsula Power crowd, not at all. But talking to the Furigals about it, who of course, basically run Peninsula Power, they said that it was the smallest crowd that they'd had this season.
Yep.
Now this is a semi-final.
Yep.
Now there's a little bit of rain in the afternoon, and they blamed it on NPL TV. That was the reason why their crowd was so small. Now, guys, think about games where you've thought, oh, I wouldn't mind going to that game, but then there's a little bit of rain happens, and you go, I'll watch it on telly.
Now, I reckon that Peninsula Power won the competition, finished first. Q in the rack. Thank you very much.
Well,
3 years in a row.
If Andy Pengelly had been a little bit sharper on the evening, they could have won that game in a canter. He had two gilt-edged chances that he missed. And had he put one of those away, I'm sure the Power would have held on for the win. But what I want to talk about is NPL TV. Now, this is something that the clubs actually pay money to Football Queensland to help produce, and it's contributing to less people going to games. So not only is it costing them to produce, but it's also costing them in bar takings and attendance in canteen costs. What are your thoughts?
This is the chicken and the egg, right? Because at the end of the day, you want the exposure, you want to be on TV. Everyone loves being on TV. But at the same stage, you've got to balance that and go, with the profile comes this particular side effect, an all unintended consequence. Do you know what I mean? And perhaps it's a question of us having a bit of a say in terms of when we're broadcast, and obviously, we have a little bit more of a dialogue with Football Queensland about how it is that we wish to be marketed, or we wish to be exposed to the wider community, because if it's costing the clubs money, that's a major problem.
So, I mean, I have to confess, I don't watch too many games on NPL TV. I much prefer to be there live. If I'm not there live, I hate watching it on my phone. I don't have the TV set up. I hate watching games on my phone because the players are all too small and I can't recognise them. I'll do it when I have to. Lliam, what are your thoughts, mate?
Oh, look, it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, like kind of like what Scott was getting at. Is It's good for the rest of the nation to see that Queenslanders and our clubs can perform at high levels and that we can play football, because on social media you can read the comments about how much better and the southern clubs, or the people that follow the game in the southern states try to put it over the Queensland game. So I like it from that sense that you're getting the exposure out to the rest of the country. It's a bit of a pain in the backside, of course, when you've got all the overseas bettors and all that, commenting and on all the games. But for us as locals, yes, it does kind of, it probably would take away some of the numbers. I know that when both the Ipswich derbies out this way, barely anyone went to them. I know that the return match Briggs Road there was, apart from the parents of probably the players, there was next to nobody there, and that's disappointing for a local derby in Ipswich when it's got such a big, rich history of football over the years. So, look, it's good and it's bad. I don't know. I like it. I have been able to watch games when, for example, especially on catch up. If I've been working or weird shifts, you can always come back and you can always watch the games. It's good for analysing the games, and but look, has the game itself, are the crowds is that something else that we park separately as well? Have the crowds started to go down, or before the NPL TV came on, or has there been a significant shift in the amount of numbers? Have people noticed that? Have the clubs noticed that in their takings, etc.? Like, I don't know. I'm not a club president. I don't work behind the counter, behind the canteen, or behind the bar, so I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if that is the case.
There seem to be things at work here, right? If this is the lowest crowd they had all season, I'm presuming NPL TV was working for all the other rounds that they were in the competition this year. So it wasn't necessarily the one contributing factor on the night. Because if NPL TV has been in place for every single round, then,
Yeah, but it was that weather a couple of hours beforehand, which I think made all those people that go, will I, won't I? Oh, it's raining. No, I won't. Tony Jorkis, you did a social media post on Sunday at the Olympic game about
it was the biggest crowd I've seen at an Olympic game in years.
The biggest?
Yes.
Well, doesn't that fly in the face of this argument?
Yeah, I know.
But the other thing is you've got to look at, Friday was a public holiday.
Yeah.
So people might have gone away. Come back on Olympic Place Sunday night, everyone's back. And the Greeks didn't care about the public holiday anyway, they just showed up.
Yeah.
The Raw game was played at Ipswich, so some Raw supporters came from Ipswich there.
Yeah.
That boosted the crowd as well.
Yeah.
It was a great crowd.
Also, I mean, could also too, it's November. Could people just be getting burnt out from watching football, especially the last month or so?
Me personally, I haven't gone to too many games this year. Normally, I would go to 2 or 3 games a weekend.
Yeah.
There's weekends this year where I've sat at home.
I went to most home games that I could with pride. But it could just be burnout. People it's getting towards the end of the year, and people are like, I want to do something else now.
My thoughts are, if the game's being commentated, show it live. If it's not, show it on delay.
Makes perfect sense.
Come on. That's my thought.
I reckon a lot of people went away on Friday.
But the problem with that is that the commentators do go to the biggest games, probably that round. So it'd be rock and a hard place with that as well. So you do see a lot of the usual clubs because they're the biggest round. Whereas I think again, Pride, I think Simon Smale, was out there maybe. I think he was out there twice the whole year. So you won't get that kind of even exposure to all the clubs. You just have live commentated games.
Yeah. All right.
But look, Darren, it's worth discussing because at the end of the day, if clubs' back pockets are suffering because of the crowd numbers, that's where they get some of their
The revenue, that's a main revenue.
That's exactly right. So I mean, it is worth discussing. Is it like you said? Is it worth just scaling it back? You know, but like I said, the rest of the country watches these games. But having said that, I didn't watch any of the South Australian games that are on there. New South Wales and Victoria, of course, you know, because of COVID, it was canned. But even though I could watch the South Australian games, I didn't. But I'm sure I don't know whether those in South Australia are watching Queensland games. But it gives exposure to the rest of the nation, these clubs that really nobody has much to do with.
Yeah, for sure. But my argument is that they don't need to watch that live to get that exposure.
Yeah, look, and that's right. And like you said about the commentating, you know, maybe it is worth. You're saying maybe it should be, but I don't know. I think you need to have equal exposure to all the clubs.
All right. We might leave that topic there. One more thing. Scott.
Yes.
Any players that you saw this year where you thought this player is going to go on to great things?
Oh, there's a few. There's a few that we've seen. A couple of the lads over at Ripley are pretty solid. A couple of the younger lads they've got playing over there are going to go to a high level, without doubt. Then we got a couple of lads over at Spirit aren't bad either. Do you know what I mean? That I've seen play live. You know, some of the younger lads, I can't remember their names, unfortunately, but just broken into their top team. And don't read into the league position necessarily with them. It's more about, I'm more interested in the young players coming through the system. Metro always up there. Jabba over at Metro is definitely something to keep an eye on, I think. He's a very impressive player.
What about you, Tony? You've been around for a long time. Did you see anyone that you think, oh, they're a bit special?
Darren, I have to be honest, I haven't been to too many games this year. And the games I have been to are NPL games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a young kid at Olympic, under 23s. He's either of a Sudanese background or Nepalese background. I think he wore number 23. Very, very good player on his feet, very quick. Yeah, I can't remember they told me his name the other day, but I can't remember it. He's one of the best ones I've seen this year.
Okay.
But I haven't been, like I said, I'm the first to admit it, I haven't gone to as many games as I would normally go to. NPL TV, mate.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? And if there was a game, a local Brisbane game, on hypothetically, say, and I'll use two names, say Moreton Bay were playing Sunny Coast Wanderers at Albany Creek, and South Melbourne were playing Heidelberg in Melbourne, I would watch that rather than go there.
Yeah. What about you, Lliam? Anyone catch your eye?
Yeah, Mitchie just signed Drew Schreiber. Now he's come through the Pride under 23s. He's a good player. The ball at his feet, magic. Front. He'll cause a lot of problems next season for some defence. There's Gladys Esquivel as well for the women. I think she's underrated. I think she deserves to be playing at a high level. A great midfielder, tough as nails, just never gives up on the ball. And that's probably my pick. There was a young keeper as well that played for us, but I've already harped on enough about Pride, so we'll move on.
Doesn't say much about Ipswich Knights, does he?
Well, look, hang on. No, Ipswich Knights, though. But I mean, and I said earlier in the season that I think even though they had a good back end of the season, and they had and look, more power to them. They said that they want to win 6 from 6 in the last 6 to get them close to Pride to try and fight for that top 4, and they won 6 from 6. They did really well. They ultimately, I think they fell one win short. But I do think that squad possibly needs a bit of a refresh for next season. There are a couple of great players in there, you know, there really is. But I don't know. I just feel like there needs to be a few changes, either positional changes or a couple of new faces. Not so much get rid of them, players that are there. Maybe just bring in a couple more players just to refresh things a bit, and and go from there.
Fair enough.
Because they're good enough. Because I mean, 6 from 6 and almost making the top 4. You know, just that mid-season, I just think they need to have a few more fresh faces in there.
We might leave it there, guys. We'll keep the powder dry till tomorrow night. After we chat to Ben, we'll throw around a couple more topics.
I'm looking forward to
Scott,
tomorrow.
great to get that little insight from you tonight, mate. Thank you for joining us.
Is that who you talking to?
That's Scott.
God, I don't know.
Probably already gone.
No, he's still there.
Talk to you that minute.
Going back to school,
Yeah,
mate.
my pleasure. My pleasure.
All right, Lliam and Tony, we'll see you guys again tomorrow night. Yes?
Yeah. Yep.
Good. We'll get Ben's take on that infamous cup of coffee with Tony.
Who wouldn't want to be a fly on the wall for that one?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, at least there's no fighting between submarines with you and.
We're friends. We're mates.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
All right, this has been the Village Law SEQFC preview show. One night to go, guys. We'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in.
Cheers.
Hey, Lliam.
Yeah.